understanding just like, especially artists and any creative types, it's like, I think there's some pressure from like the industry at large or whatever to just produce. And like, at the end of the day, it's like we are all, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We're all human, and we're all going through very real shit, and it's like, there's stuff with guys that I work with that, that the world would never know and they're not supposed to know, but that I know, and working even with like, it's like, I haven't worked with like an A-list, global level celebrity, but I see what it looks like even on a smaller scale to have someone in like the 100, 200,000 follower range and like what they're going through, what they're battling behind the scenes compared to like people and fans and followers' expectations of them to just deliver. And when you see the effect that has on the people that are actually creating the art, you begin to have more empathy for people that are doing it at a super high level.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on an expert who can help us reach our inner potential. He's the founder of 7 Sharp, an artist and producer management company. His clients include Cousin Stizz, Michael Christmas, Cam Meekins, T. Watt, and more. He's now new, and this is brand new. As of now, it is live. He's the co-host of the Bounce Back with Tim and Q podcast, which we'll get into at some point today. For all the OG listeners of mine, he was the guest for episode 32 of Purpose in the Youth podcast, which released 5 years ago on April 12th. This episode will be going live on April 11th. The serendipitous of that is just unbelievable. Today on the podcast, Tim Larew, baby. How you doing?
I'm thrilled to be here, man. No, seriously, like I have very fond memories from that era, from like us first connecting. You hit me the other day saying it was 5 years. It feels like it could have been 5 months, but that's
unbelievable.
That's how
I vividly remember that day like it was yesterday, and that's because you were truthfully the first person that I ever cold email to reach out, really? Like podcasting wise. I don't think I've ever told you that, but I knew early on, like, with what I was trying to build, like I need to start local and just start with like mutual friends of mine to build a concept before I start reaching out to people that have no idea who I am. I knew I had to give them a preview of what I was creating. So I told myself, spend at least that first 10 to 15 episodes of that podcast just using your friends and like people that you know directly, and then start reaching out. And you were the first person to cold email, and we like chatted back and forth for a couple months because you were living in New York at the time. I was in Boston, but you gave a lot of inspiration to me, man, when I was first getting started, because I knew who you were from afar, and it was like, wait, I'm about to get connected to Tim Larew, who I've seen in the Boston scene for a minute, and it just kind of like gave me like the inspiration of like what I could do with this project if I kept going.
That's super cool to hear. It's funny. I don't think I've ever told you this. I like vaguely knew who you were too, because I knew Dylan Reese, like just kind of through my blog. Like I'd post his music, at some point very early on. And I remember just seeing you as like part of his crew. So when you reached out, I was like, oh, I know who Bobby is. But it was really just, and I at that time was getting a lot of just like random, reach outs and podcast type of stuff. But I just loved the way you presented it. It was just like, it was just the classic, like what you're supposed to do in like an intro email, just like short to the point, like here's the concept. I love the concept, the Purpose in the Youth concept. I just thought it was dope. I was like, well, it's exactly, I'm the type of person that I felt like you built the platform for and to give platforms to, which was like someone that's very early in the journey, but that has done enough that, there might be something worth sharing or might be worth people learning from. So it was a great time, it was a great time to connect. And, I've told you this personally, but like, I'm super proud of just your journey and where you've come. And like, I was telling my girl the other day, like, that we were going to do this again. And I was like, man, like, genuinely, like you're a friend of mine and, but I've watched you develop your voice, your platform, like everything so well. And you're still so early in the process, but it's been super cool, man, to have a front seat to that for the last 5 years or a passenger seat or whatever.
Honored, man. Absolutely honored. I appreciate the words. And I love what you just said right there is, you're still so early on. And I think that's the thing that we get so caught up, right? As I look back, I've been doing this for 5 years and I still feel like I'm just getting started, but I know it's like looking back at where I've come from. That's what reignites me to keep going. And just knowing that it's always a daily, like there's always going to be more room to grow. There's always going to be the next guest that you're going to try to achieve. But The podcast, I actually was doing a lot of, I re-listened to not only our first episode yesterday, but I also listened to the recent one you did in November with Cam. And one thing you had said to him that really like, I never heard it like this, where you had said, the journey is the destination. And I was like, man, that is so damn true. Because every time I've always like created that internal belief that once I get to X position in my life, everything's going to be bliss. But like climbing a mountain, you climb it and then you're always going to the next peak.
No, it's funny, man. I feel like I've kind of had that mentality my whole life. Like growing up, my mom has had like a lot of traumatic experiences involving her claustrophobia. So she would not get on a plane. I'm 30 years old. I've never been on a plane with her, probably never will. So we would do, I grew up in Connecticut. We would do, 24-hour drives to Orlando. We went to Disney like 2 or 3 times over the course of my childhood. And when I look back, I'm like, man, Disney was awesome. I have the best memories from Orlando, from Disney World. But I loved the road trips. I loved those, staying 3 nights, staying in New York, staying in Virginia, staying in somewhere in Georgia, not even Atlanta, just somewhere random. But I just remember like it became this like almost romanticized thing where every time we took a long road trip, which we did a lot because she wouldn't fly, I just, I would listen to audiobooks, listen to music, just kind of get lost in my own mind and my own world. And, I remember anytime we would leave the destination when the trip was over, I would miss whatever that was, but I would also look forward to just like the journey back. Cause it was always like, all right, what's the next thing? And I would talk to kids growing up that like hated doing like a 3-hour drive to Cape Cod from Connecticut. And I'm like, that's nothing, like it's a little thing, but I think that, I just really, really enjoyed and always have like in the literal sense, like I've enjoyed the journey. And then, in the more like kind of, whatever metaphor, just, broad sense, like I've always like really valued, the story. I'm a storyteller at heart, like the stories and kind of like the things you do and the people you meet along the way. And it's been a big part of my life for sure. Yeah,
it's been a hell of a ride watching from afar the growth that you've had, even just the last 5 years. Thinking back, you were 26 at the time when we sat down in that New York City hotel to do that podcast. What do you think are some of the biggest changes in that time span within you?
It's a good question. I think there's nothing like, huge or super notable, but I think it's just been like a very constant, gradual self-confidence, self-awareness, these things that like, I could go and list accomplishments or list like, whatever kind of tentpole moments, but like really I've just lived, I've just developed as a person and, developed in my relationships. And like, I was talking to a friend recently about this, but I've always valued friendship and community, but I think like, even in the last few years, and maybe that has something to do with like COVID and just coming out of that and just kind of realizing like the importance of community and friendship, which I've always valued, but like, I just, I'm just so grateful for like the people I have in my life. And it's always been a big thing for me is like, we'll leave people, leave places you've been, leave communities better than you found them. And I think I've only doubled down on that, and like really paid a lot of mind to my friendships, to my relationships, to, the communities that I've been a part of building. So I don't know, just matured a lot, I don't know. But it's funny. I remember, I haven't even listened to it recently, but I remember one of the first lines that I said in that podcast with you when you were like, how young, I remember that was your thing. You were like, how young are you? You didn't say how old. Yeah. And I remember literally saying like, oh man, I'm like 26, but I feel like I'm too old. And it's funny, right? Because I just turned 31. I said 30, I lied. I'm like still in COVID times. I'm like, I'm not even 30 yet. It doesn't count. Take those years back. I'm still 29.
For real, hit the refresh.
Yeah, but I'm 31 and it's like, I've had a bit of a mental shift where I'm like, I'm young. Like I think I consider myself younger at 31 than I did at 26, which is cool. It's a good feeling. I really didn't have any anxiety. I thought I would like turning 30 last year, end of 2020. Like I didn't, I felt pretty good about it. I felt like, my 20s were very, very full. I didn't leave anything on the table. I did the things I wanted to do. I have, memories to last a lifetime. Like I tried shit, I took chances on things, took chances on people. I just lived, I lived. So I think anytime someone has like regret, whether it's for a decade or a year or whatever, they probably just didn't do the things they wanted to do. There was something in their head. They were like, I could have, you know, and there's always, I could have, you know, there's things where I'm like, oh, well, what if I did more of this or did more of that? But I entered my 30s feeling like very fulfilled. And, you know, talking to a good friend of mine, Gilad, he was like, yeah, I think he's about to be 30. And he was like, man, like one of my mentors always told me, like, you know, 20s are for learning, 30s are for earning. You know, the 30s is really when you, and I've heard that from older friends of mine too, where they're like, I'll shout out my friend Malk, who's like one of my close friends. He's one of my Those Talks guys, but he's a big inspiration for me because I'm, you know, he's 4 or 5 years older than me. And like, he's hitting his stride. Like he's, you know, 35 or whatever he is. And I'm like, this dude is like, he like learned to DJ 2 years ago. And now he's like getting real big gigs DJing. Wow. And that's just something he picked up just for fun, you know, and I'm watching like the way he kind of, you know, balances his health and his relationship and his lifestyle. I'm like, this dude's just getting started. You know, he's 35. He's just getting started. It's the classic like Gary Vee thing. You know, he's always preaching to people, but you live it and you're like, it sounds funny to younger kids. Cause even now, like I'll talk to kids in college and they'll literally like laugh when I'm like, I'm just getting started. I'm like, no, trust me. Like you're 22, you're going to blink and you're going to be 30 and it's still going to feel very new to you. That's life. That was tangent after tangent, but yeah, man, I'm just, you know, I'm just very present and I think I always was, but like, I don't know. I definitely feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. That's an incredible
perspective to have. And I feel like when you're pursuing the things you really want to do in your life, especially, I really do believe like the 20s are those years of just like, you get out of college, this is the time to start throwing ideas at the wall, figure out the thing you thought you wanted to do isn't the thing you want to do, or roll the dice and start the passion project that might potentially turn into a business. That's what the 20s is all about. And I feel very fortunate that every year my birthday comes around, I'm like super excited about it because I feel like it's closing the chapter on an incredible year of growth, learning, hurdles, and, you know, whatever you want to package it as. And then it's kind of opening the next chapter of like taking everything I just learned and now applying it to this next year. And so I think if you can have that perspective of not only you're like excited about the next year and not, oh, it was so good when we were in their 20s, and just knowing that it is, I always feel like it is just getting started because you're taking all of these learnings that you've learned in the past 10 years and you can now apply them. And it just changes your perspective and it changes the way you approach your life, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly how I feel.
There's one quote that you said in the first podcast that it struck a chord to me because I'd never heard it. And I think we've all heard it in different contexts, but luck is when opportunity meets preparation. How has that perspective fueled the fire within you or within any of the clients that you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's a pretty well-known saying, but I remember Pat, the manager, he was the one that kind of like, I think I referenced this in that
you did.
podcast.
You referenced Pat. You got a good memory.
Yeah, I remember everything. Just know that's my me quoting Party Next Door, quoting Drake. I really do remember everything, man. You can't get anything past me.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, I remember just seeing him, you know, respond to somebody on Twitter being like, man, you got so lucky, like managing him. And he's like, no, I was just ready. You know, I was ready. You know, it was, you know, and I definitely, you know, have always tried to apply that. I always try to be ready, you know, and I don't think you can ever be like fully ready for anything. It's like, you know, are you ready to have kids? Are you ready to, you know, have this relationship? Are you ready? Even though those are non-career things, there's a ton of career things that applies to, but, you know, I think for me, it's always been just like being very present, you know, being present, carrying myself the way I want to, like even within business, like, you know, I think even in the last 5 years, this is something I've like developed and that's changed a little bit where like when we first talked back then, I don't think I thought much about like, well, what kind of void do I fill in like the music business or like whatever industry I'm in. And I didn't need to. It was like I had my own thing, you know, and I was doing something that I was hyper focused on. It was like, all right, well, I got a few guys out of Boston. Like that was the mission back then. You know, since then I moved to LA, moved back, you know, I've been here a couple times, but I've been back here for 5 years. And as you get more into it and you just, you know, get further along in your career, you do start to think, well, what's the longer term beyond this, like, you know, hyper focused tasks at hand right now? You know, so that's kind of where that has always come into play is I'm like, you know, I realize that I'm someone that like, you know, I've never been a big believer in or built my career on like analytics, or, and there's some people that are data people, there's some people that are like, look, here's a list of my accomplishments. Here's everything I can do for you. Here's what I did for somebody else. And I've built my career in like a bit more of a mysterious kind of way. And I think that's attracted the people that I want to be working with. I've kind of moved in like a, if you know,
yeah.
Not really having to shout
truth.
out. Yeah. And I've always believed, in like, shit. I mean, my mom taught me this growing up, that, that reputation is everything. And I've always been very, very, very conscious of, I've moved very organically and purely, but also been very conscious of, what people are saying, what people are thinking, and not trying to control that, but knowing that, you do good business, you're a good person, you do things for the right reasons, you're going to attract more of that. You're shiesty, you're shady, you're going to attract that. So, I've realized that my niche and like the way I've always continue to attract people that want to work with me or that I want to work with or whatever is, I think I'm like I have 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the industry. I've always been that way. There's a lot of the political shit that I don't subscribe to. I don't deal with. It doesn't interest me. I might have been able to move a little bit differently and get on some of these, Billboard 40 under 40 or whatever. Like there's some people that chase those accolades, but they do it in a way where like their entire path is designed to get that, and I've never like been an accolade kind of guy. Like I take a lot more pride in like, talk to the 5 or 6 or 10 people closest to me, and what do they got to say about me? Do I inspire them? Do I make them want to be better? Do they know they can really rely on me? Not just on some like, yeah, he's here, because things are going well. I pride myself on being there for people when things aren't going well, career wise or not. So yeah, man, I've been constantly prepared just by being myself, and moving the way I want to move, and and ultimately like having faith in the way that I move, and knowing that like, I might be able to, again, change the way I maneuver, the way I move, to try to like make, turn it into like a shorter game. But I'm a long game guy, always have been. So I'm like, I want, legacy matters, reputation matters, working with people I really want to work with matters, and just, taking time to figure out what it is that I want, because that can change every year too. So yeah, man, I stay prepared just by staying present always.
How do you balance the big picture thinking with also like thinking in the short term? That was something that I had heard. I think it was on our first podcast, but it was you were talking about, there was an instance where I think it was the day before you were about to launch Stizz's SoundCloud, and you helped him switch his name from Stizzy, and you were thinking from the SEO purpose of wanting to change it. And that to me is speaking to somebody that's thinking big pictures, not thinking about like, let's just launch tomorrow and get going. So that's just one minor example, I'm sure, as of many, but how do you balance that? Like, this is where I want to go, whether it's for you personally or with your clients, to then like focusing on the micro things that you need to do to get there.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that it's not overly complicated. It's just like, I mean, even in that little example, it's like, well, you can make decisions that are like, at that time, you can make decisions that were like more local, that's the way I always looked at it. Like, do I want to help this artist be like a successful local act, or do I want to help, paint things in a way and set things up in a way that like, if somebody random from, Atlanta or, middle of nowhere, anywhere, finds him, or A, how would they find him? B, if they find him, does it look like something that they would want to share all around, from the visuals to the, to the social media, to the name, to everything. Like everything needs to feel, if you think, if your goal is to make something big, it's gotta, you got to give it room to grow. So, but it's both those things. It's just, it's making decisions that make sense today, but also, again, like I said, keeping in mind, like legacy, keeping in mind, I've always had like a pretty good grasp on like, on the long term, because that's always been my game. Is like, what's this gonna look like when the story's done?
That's such a important kind of perspective and mindset to have when you're constantly thinking about what is the long term, because it's giving you that fuel that even though you might not be seeing the short term progress, or you might be having these like bumps along the way, like this is where we're trying to go. Like things might not have gone perfectly today. deadlines are getting pushed back or whatever it might be. But I think as long as you understand that bigger picture and you have an idea of where you're trying to go, I think it just makes it so much easier to deal with the day-to-day, because this is just minor steps in the bigger picture of where you're trying to be.
100%.
Quick break from today's episode, and then we'll get right back to it. This episode today is brought to you by Tenzo Tea, the greatest matcha brand in the world. 2021, I transitioned from drinking only coffee to then mixing in green matcha. And let me tell you, green matcha has been a game changer because it gives me sustained energy throughout my day, every single day. 2 scoops, sometimes 3, honest times, most times 3. 3 scoops of Tenzo with a little bit of almond milk. I mix that up and I'm fired up for the day. This show is all about helping you reach your potential, and I for sure need this energy throughout my day. So it has been such a game changer. 64% of American adults drink coffee every day, and they pay the price with dehydration, jitters, anxiety, and headaches. Switching out the morning coffee for a matcha helps us stay level-headed, focused, and avoids the coffee crash. Tenzo matcha contains natural caffeine and L-theanine, which keeps you energized and feeling like a Zen monk. A Zen monk, ladies and gentlemen. This product tastes great and also makes a delicious matcha latte, which is what I make, and I'm a big fan. If you head over to tenzotea.co, use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word, that's 25% off your order. Once again, tenzotea.co, TheBeardedMan, all one word, gets you 25% off your order. 36 milligrams of caffeine per half teaspoon, so there's plenty of that. And it's really great. I really can't speak highly enough of it. I use it every single day. I wouldn't promote a product on here unless I used it. And Tenzo Tea is a product that I highly suggest. Head over to tenzotea.co. Use my promo code TheBeardedMan, all one word. Get energized and crush your day ahead. Now back to today's episode. What are 2 to 3 skills that you've had to develop as somebody that operates as an artist manager, creative director? What skills are crucial for you?
Empathy is one for sure. Like really understanding where people are coming from, and in kind of every type of relationship. It's like, whether you want to talk like negotiating business stuff, or understanding just like especially artists and any creative types. It's like I think there's some pressure from like the industry at large or whatever to just produce, and like at the end of the day, it's like we are all, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We're all human, and we're all going through very real shit, and it's like, there's stuff with guys that I work with that, that the world would never know, and they're not supposed to know, but that I know, and working even with like, it's like, I haven't worked with like an A-list, global level celebrity, but I see what it looks like even on a smaller scale to have someone in like the 100, 200,000 follower range, and like what they're going through, what they're battling behind the scenes, compared to like people and fans and followers' expectations of them to just deliver. And when you see the effect that has on the people that are actually creating the art, you begin to have more empathy for people that are doing it at a super high level. People think these days it's like everything is very accessible, and people think, well, just because I can like DM this dude, or whatever, like I have a point of contact. Like, yeah, Drake's probably not going to read your DM, but you can DM him. Shit, it's like you can, and that's a weird thing, and like, people just think they have more power or should have more power than they do, or just that they know someone better than they do just because they are tapped in or following them all the time. And I think like, even from like a business standpoint, like, I've worked with producers, I've worked with artists, I've worked with every type of creative in the music or whatever entertainment business, and everyone has their own prerogative, everyone has their own business, their own bottom line, their own, I need to get this out of this situation. And like when you deal with all of the different types, and know what they all need, and kind of how they move in a given situation where everyone's trying to, do what's best for them and make the most money possible or whatever. It's a kind of a gift and a curse, because I think sometimes it's like, if I was just managing producers, for example, I might have this view of the industry where like producers are getting fucked. And oftentimes producers do get fucked, but there's a larger sort of problem in the industry where like, I'll speak specifically on like the hip hop sect of the music industry, like there's not as much money going around as people think. You know, I think a lot of it is this like sort of facade image that a lot of people keep up. And it's created this like kind of strange, like at the end of the day, the people getting paid are the people working at Spotify, the people working at, you know, major labels. Like it's always been skewed in that direction. I think especially now more than ever. And I think a lot of the actual creatives have suffered a bit. And it's like a lot of the creatives and people working with the creatives end up sort of fighting for scraps. And it creates this like weird dynamic where like everybody feels like they're getting the short end of the stick, where in reality, like, that's kind of what it is. Like the industry, the corporations are making a lot of money, and in this age old thing, but the creatives get fucked in a lot of situations. But I've seen it kind of from all angles. So that's helped me. That's what I was saying is like the downside is like, you know, if I was just working with producers, maybe I would fight for the producers in a more blinded, like narrow, like tunnel vision, like this is what they need. But I understand the whole picture. I understand the whole picture, but that has helped. You know, it's helped dealing with people because, you know, I've I've been a big believer in transparency in my business. Like the way there's a lot of shit, like the way you build a business that you keep to yourself and like your own, you know, marketing strategies, things like that. But, you know, when it comes to like just telling it like it is, I'm very transparent. You know, I'll get on the phone with a producer, an engineer, and I'll talk to him for 30, 40 minutes. And I'll say, look, you know, this is why you're not getting paid what you think you should be getting paid. This is the situation. And I like doing that because I'm like, there's not a lot of transparency in the music business. And I like being somebody that's like, we can do this sort of like, you know, butt heads negotiation. You know what I want, I know what you want, but like, let's just talk about what it is. So I think like, I don't know if that's tied to the empathy thing, but I think just understanding like, you know, the whole thing and understanding where people come from and people's feelings. And again, just, you know, that people are fucking human, you know, and you know, at the end of the day, we all want the same things.
Yeah. I think that speaks to why you've been able to succeed at what you do, because although there is a business aspect of management, creative directing, and everything underneath that, you need to be good with people. You need to be able to make people feel good, to want to create, to want to show up, to want to become the best version of themselves, to, you know, sometimes back down when they think they deserve X, but you're like, this is the reality. This is what we need to go with, or this is where we're at short term, but we're going to be here big term. So I think that just speaks to like why you've been able to succeed is you've been able to lean into your strengths, which is you're a people's person and you understand how to make people feel the right way that makes them want to do business with you.
Yeah, I try. You know, I mean, I think I just genuinely enjoy, you know, creating. You know, I've been a writer and been a storyteller, and like I just, you know, that's the most important thing to me is like you know, everybody that has an inkling or has a desire to do that should be able to. And like, you know, I think a lot of, like I said, the lack of transparency just should be broken down. And you know, I'm a big believer in like, you know, helping people understand the difference between like a full-time job and doing something as a side gig or doing something as a hobby, and like really, again, just wiping away that lack of clarity and just really telling it like it is. Like, all right, well, you know, this is what there's no blueprint, but like, this is what it takes to do something, you know, creative or entrepreneurial full time. You know that, you've lived that. It's like, this shit is not easy. And it's like, you know, I think more people, you know, especially like I said, that, you know, the hip hop industry is very predatory, and they get a lot of these young kids in like, you know, pretty fucked deals where they're, you know, getting 6-7 figures, you know, as like teens, early 20s. There's no education. There's no, I've literally been there. No one's looking out for you. You know, they're giving kids this, you know, this very predatory, like sort of like thing resembling a loan. It's like, you don't have to, you know, technically pay it back if you take a loss, but like you're recouping that forever with a horrible royalty rate. And like, you know, it's this sort of delusion that you know, that they participate in knowingly. And that's why anytime I talk to like a young kid, I just, again, try to be as transparent as possible, because I'm like, look, you know, there's a path, you know, in this shit for, you know, people to be able to get $100, $200, $300, $400, $500,000 check right now. You pay your commissions, you pay your taxes on that. You're in a 6-year deal. That's not a lot of money. that's not a lot of money, but to a lot of these kids go out and, get cars they can't afford and houses they can't afford and, buy their, parents a lot of stuff, buy their friends stuff because they feel like they made it. And it's again, tales always time. It happens, but there's not enough education because I don't think a lot of it comes from a good place. I think it is just like a pretty predatory industry for the most part. And that's why I said I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's like I run a management business. I don't run a label. A management business, I eat if they eat. I take a small commission, and that's just like a moral thing for me. It's like, I don't know. Like there's so many different areas of the business I will get into and have over the years, but like that's part of why I've been in management versus like some of the other areas, because I'm like, that's just what I personally believe in. If I can add to a situation, then I deserve something from it. But there's a lot of people that just take.
You're truly on the same team as them. So like you said, if they're eating, you're eating. If they're not eating, you're not eating. So it makes it, I think people know that at the end of the day, you're seeking the best interest for anyone that you're working with.
Yeah. And I've navigated the high highs and the low lows, and it's the lows are not fun, but it's like, that's, to me at least, that's part of what you sign up for. It's like that's not how life goes. Life is hard. We love and we lose, and like, we have great weeks and we have terrible weeks. Again, human. It's not, I don't really look at it. I don't think I work in the music business. I think I work in just like the human business, the people business. I think I'm just like, I don't know. It's weird. There's a lot of industry shit I just can't get with. And that's why I've just always taken pride in being 1 foot. I have amazing network and incredible, friends in the music industry. And there's so many people in these buildings, in these positions that I respect so much. And they're as individuals, not predatory, not, there's a lot of people, the majority probably, that are not bad people with bad intentions, but there's a lot of bad in the system. And I try to stay out of that.
Stay out of it. Can you give me an example, especially in the last 5 years, of maybe a low, and you don't have to you can go into as much detail or as little detail as you want, but what was that low and how you overcame it or what you learned from it?
Not even me personally, just it's hard without sharing too much, but just, it's like everybody just goes through times where it's like, an artist might be just going through a time where they lose somebody or a time where they're just down or depressed or whatever. And it's like my role, I work with a lot of people that I've known for a minute and that have been close friends for a minute. And I've always looked at my role as like, sometimes a shoulder to cry on, sometimes the life coach, sometimes I'm more of the Phil Jackson, I'm like, I'm trying to build like a championship team, but at the same time, like sometimes you gotta talk. Sometimes you just gotta like zen out. Sometimes you gotta take time away from what it is you're supposed to be producing or doing. And yeah, I mean, and naturally it's like, there's no such path as a path of just highs. It's like, that's everything. I've lived by that. It's like, if I'm low, I know I'm coming back up, but if I'm high, I know I'm coming down. Like this is how it goes. Like I consider myself a very, very level person and someone that, is, it's almost like I have to, excuse me. It's almost like I have to stop myself from not thinking about the inevitable lows during the midst of a high. I sometimes have a problem with that almost because I'm so conscious of like this moment. And I think I'm pretty good at being present, but I'm just very hyper aware that like, I might be down, but I know how to shake it for me personally. For everybody, it's different. Like for me, part of my routine, whether I'm, anything I'm going through, I'm like, out here, especially, like I'll go just drive to the beach, sunset, look at the water, just literally turn my phone off, look at the water for an hour. I shoot hoops. Like that's a very meditative thing for me. Basketball is a huge part of my life. And like, since I was a kid, 10, 11 years old, like me going out and shooting hoops for 45 minutes alone, when I got some shit that is like weighing on me, has been the best therapy ever. I know for some people that's running. I know for some people that's actual therapy, seeing a therapist, whatever. But like, there's just little things I know that will always help balance me out. And like I said, when there's when I'm on a stretch of like, oh, I'm feeling great about myself, or like I just accomplished boom, 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 this and this thing, I know that there's going to be, it's not even like lows, but you just know that there's going to be challenges that come with that. You know, it's like new opportunities. You're like, oh, this is great. Okay, well, you know, now I got to figure out how to sustain that or how to build a team around that or whatever. And it's like, you know, you've talked to so many people that have like built businesses and stuff and like done cool entrepreneurial things. And I feel like everyone probably has said the same thing at some point, which is like, you know, you get a big win, you get an investment, you get, you know, some type of award or whatever your field is, you know, and you know, ultimately all that means is more work. You know, it just more work, more responsibilities. It's the journey. It's what we started talking about. It's just the journey. And, you know, you're either buckled up and ready for that, or you're putting too much weight in the wins, you know, and you're constantly just like putting, you know, you're just waiting for the next win and you're building everything up to, you know, to get to that point and then feel this thing that is going to just put you on another level. And it does for a second, but you know, nothing sustains like that. You know, it's just more fuel, but it's really just more fuel to get through the next low. You know, and I've always, like I said, for me, I know how to handle it for the most part, but you know, for my guys, anybody that's, you know, going through anything, you know, you learn, and that's something I would say also in the last 5 years, that I've learned is just like for each person that I work with or have a relationship with, it's so different. You know, it's so different. We're all so different. And there's people that like, I need to give space to. There's people that need me just sitting on the phone listening. There's people that need a pep talk, like a real pep talk. And I'm like a bit of a chameleon where I can do all of those things. You know, like I can give a great fucking pep talk. I'm also
Bill Jackson, man. Of course you can.
Yeah, I'm also a great listener. You know, I know I am. And you know, and some people just need to be heard. You know, and I'm also perfectly fine with knowing that there's some people that just need space and just, they don't even want to think about creating. They don't want to think about anything. And that's fine. Cause I know sometimes I get in those zones. So, you know, it's just continuing to develop relationships and knowing what, you know, triggers people, knowing what makes people inspired. Yeah, you just, you know, like I keep saying, you learn those things by being present. You know, you try not to, you know, you try not to mess with like the natural flow of things. You just kind of, it's like a very Taoist sort of, you know, way of thinking, which I've always aligned with, which is just like, there's a way to things, you know, and sometimes you just can't disrupt the way. You just have to like exist in it, you know, and be there for yourself when you need that, be there for people when they need that. And like, I don't know, you can't force things to be what they're not.
Yeah. I will say one of the biggest things that I've ever done that's allowed me to not let those highs become so much highs is trying to really take a moment every morning where I'll sit down and I'll journal about it of what are 3 things that I'm excited for the day ahead. So by doing so, it's allowing even those high moments of a big podcast dropping with a big guest or, you know, something exciting that I'm working on behind the scenes or whatever it might be. It allows it to just be another new thing I'm excited for. So like today would be, I was excited for this podcast. I'm excited to grab a matcha with a friend, and I'm excited to, I think I'd wrote just to learn and grow in whatever ways that I can. And tomorrow it's going to be something different. And next Monday, it'll be the new episode that's coming out. So I think instead of allowing these high moments to arrive, it's more about how can I look at all of these highs as just a normal occurrence. And then also whenever those lows do come, you don't feel like you're going from such a high to a low because you kind of stay. I always think of it as like you're flying a plane at 30,000 feet. You're going to have turbulence. It's going to take you a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but you always have to find that way to get back to that level flying of 30,000. And that's been really, really important on top of like, as you had mentioned, basketball or going to the beach, like finding those habits or routines that allow you to clear your mind and to slow down. Cause I always like to say it's a fast life. There's always something. You're going to be working. Then the weekends come. You're going to events. You're going to a dinner. You're doing a podcast. Like if you don't take those moments to just sit and be aware of what's happening, it fucking flies, man.
Yeah, man. Time flies. Yeah, and you're right. It is those little things that center you. It is those, you know, like I said, the basketball thing. Like I'll do 100 free throws, you know, and that's 20, 25, 30 minutes. But anytime I do something like that, or even do like a quick little, you know, 10-minute meditation, I feel like that just, you know, it just recenters me and it feels like, okay, well, anything could have happened that day, but I was able to bring myself back to center, you know? And I think, like you said, the journaling, that's, you know, I've done a decent amount of that, like just, you know, gratitude journaling and just, you know, and just being grateful, whether it's journaling or not, but gratitude has been a really big thing for me lately.
Yeah. I think even it doesn't have to be. Let's go ahead. I want to hear it.
No, man, I had a good cry last night. My first cry in a very long time. I'm not someone that like cries very often. But I was talking to my girl last night, and somehow I was thinking about like my grandma and you know, just there was like a funny story from like years ago, but I just lost it. I'm like, man, like there's so many people that don't have like a lot of love in their life, or they don't necessarily know like what real love feels like. And sometimes I just have reflective moments where I'm like, man, like, fuck, like what did I do to deserve like the friends I have in my life and the family I have, you know? And that helps me stay really balanced and present, because I'm like, whatever is happening, like I know I can fall back on like the love, you know, and I give a lot of love. So I know it's like there's a relationship there, but I'm just these days, man, I'm just so grateful for so many things. And that fuels a lot of my energy. That fuels a lot of my ability to like be there for other people. Cause sometimes I notice the lack of that in other people's lives. And I'm like, well, if I can contribute just the smallest amount of like love or dependability or whatever, like I'm paying it forward. You know, I'm a big believer in paying forward what you were blessed with.
Yeah, you're segueing right to what I wanted to ask you next, which was something you talked about with Cam Meekins on that podcast as well. You said, "I'm trying to give people their flowers. I wish people told me that." I think it was in context. You were complimenting young writers or young people that were in college, like that were reaching out to you and trying to get into the music biz. How has carving out the time and showing that gratitude, showing that appreciation, showing that respect to people been beneficial to you?
I need to do more of it, but like it, you know, it feels so good. It's just, I mean, we all want to feel appreciated and loved. You know, that's the human condition. Is like I think some people, you know, a lot of the people that are just like, you know, hurting are people that, you know, I don't want to generalize, but I think there's a lot of people that, you know, that just don't feel love expressed, you know, and you know, maybe feel like they aren't getting their flowers, or they aren't being appreciated, or they're being overlooked or whatever. And it's not a direct response to that, but more so in recent years, like I'm definitely conscious of it. And I've been trying to just, you know, let people know I love them. And, you know, I even open this by just, you know, and this is not something new, but, you know, and you do this with me, you know, but I, you know, I genuinely mean it, you know, when I'm like, look, like your journey has inspired, I've told you this, like, you know, your journey has inspired me, because that's how it's supposed to be. You know, it's supposed to be a gift that keeps on giving, like you doing your thing. You know, I'm in this corner of the world, but I'm like, man, like he's on his shit, you know, like in such a dope way, you know. And I'm like, I'm watching, you know, like I said, my friend Malk, there's so many examples, but I'm watching people that are in my life just develop, you know, and I like, you know, I like to acknowledge that, you know, because I'm like, I don't want to keep that to myself. It's like, you never know. It's not maybe them directly or you or him directly, but it's energy, you know. And when you create that energy and put that energy out in the world, it compounds. You know, somebody somewhere is going to hear what I said to you, and somebody's going to be like, damn, like he started this thing 5 or 6 years ago and just kind of put his head down and lived his life and did, you know, has had this crazy journey. And like, that's a cool moment. Like I know for a fact, like somebody's going to watch that moment, and that moment is going to stick with somebody, you know, and that comes from a genuine place. That I didn't do it for that reason, but I know it, you know, because I love watching that happen on a higher level. I love it. I think it's the best thing. You know, life is really short, and like, you know, I think sometimes people's biggest regrets are like the things left unsaid, you know, and people are like, damn, like I wish I told this person this, or I wish this person, you know, got their flowers. I mean, it's a thing, it's a saying, you know, and that it's always like, excuse me, top of mind for me, man. I'm trying to do better and better with it. You know, there's like a real vulnerability to being able to sit with a good friend, you know, and say, man, like, you know, especially even as men, you know, it's like there's not so much anymore, but I think like, you know, there's like a little bit of a, I don't know, stigma isn't the right word, but even just being able to tell like your homie, like, man, I love you. Like, I really appreciate you being a part of my life. Like I say, I love you to all my close friends, that's just what it is. Love is an interesting thing, and love is something I'm, at 31 years old, still trying to wrap my head around, and that's why I have these moments of like, damn, like, I think I know what love is, because love is that story I was reflecting on my grandma where, she calls me and they were getting, long story, but I'll tell it quick because it's funny. This is like 5 or 6 years ago. I was in LA for the first time, and my grandma and grandpa, who I've always been very close with, kind of grew up 10 minutes away from them, probably 8 a.m. LA time, call me, and I hear like the panic in their voice, and they're just very frantic. And they're like, where are you? And I was like, I'm in LA. Like, I'm in my apartment. And they just like weren't, weren't satisfied with that. They were really panicking. They were like scared. Like, where are you? Like, are you sure? Like, are you good? This and that. I'm like, yeah, like, what's going on? I'm like, is everything okay with you guys? What's going on? And long story short, like, they were getting like scammed somehow. Someone basically called them. I don't know if it was someone I was connected to or something random, but they were like, your grandson, Tim, is like in jail in Boston and like needs you to wire this amount of money to get him out of jail. Right. So, and I was like, look, I can send you a picture. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm, like this sucks. Like, I'm sorry this is happening, but I'm good, And my grandma was like, she was like, look, like if you're in Boston, like, I will never tell your mom anything. If you got into trouble, like, I'll never tell your mom, like, and I was like, man, she was like, just tell me, like, we got you, like, we'll get you out of whatever situation. I'm like, fuck, like, that's love, man. Like, that's damn, like, to the point where, and I know how close her and my mom always were, and I know there was, it's like, if I'm doing something, they're talking about it, but for her to say that, a little funny thing, but I'm like, damn, like, that's love, like, that's real love. Like, that's someone I can fucking depend on, and I love my grandma so much, but, little moments, little moments I reflect on. I don't remember how I segued into that, but
I think they were trying to call my grandmother too in Western Massachusetts. I think they were calling her too, because
that's a thing, huh?
There's somebody out there trying to scam the older folks, but some of them are too wise, man. They know to do their research. Like, I don't have time for you. Hang up. Call.
Not my grandparents, man. They don't know how to use anything. They're really like old. Like, they're like so youthful, but they're true old people. They don't know how to use anything.
Yeah, it's a different world and different perspective for what they were raised in and what we're raised in. What are some boundaries that you've created in your life that allow you to do what you do, to be who you are, whether it's personal, work wise? I think boundaries is like a big thing for me, and like what allows me to accomplish all these things that I want to do and all these buckets of my life. Are there any boundaries that have helped you?
I'm not great at that. That's somewhere I need some improvement. I'm not great. I've definitely, with like my clients, my guys, I definitely have created intentionally like they know not to hit me, super late or weekends unless it's something they really need, and I never wrote that in stone, but it was something I think early days I was like fully accessible 24/7. And then I think somewhere in my, mid to late 20s, naturally I started to be like, yeah, I need to have a life, like there is, when we started it was kind of friendship mixed with business. And then it's like, all right, well, no, this is a job when we need to treat it like that. And it's like, I truly, I can be available for anything at any time. Like, and I want to be, but like I said, unless it's something really pressing, like, I'm not trying to get on the phone at 10 p.m. I'm not trying to, I need my weekend space. We all do, and there's people, some people that might truly be accessible all the time, but I've definitely, over the years preserved my late nights and weekends for me. But I think, I think I need to do a better job carving out more just creative time for myself. I've been saying this for about 1.5 years and I haven't made a lot of progress, but
it's coming. It's coming.
No, we'll talk about that right after this, but it's very close. I'm feeling a pretty big shift happening and it's exciting. But, and that has less to do with like, limiting time, for other people, and more to do with me carving time for myself. Like there's some time in the day. I think it's just about being a bit more dedicated and just putting my phone on DND. Like even right now, it's like, this is pretty unusual. It's like, I typically don't not look at my phone for an hour, and I admire people that are like I've referenced him a few times now, but my friend Malk, we joke with him because he be going on DND all the time, but I know it's because he gets really locked in on projects. And I'm like, it's a fine line. It's a tough balance, because it's like, I don't have a traditional full-time job. Like it is very unpredictable. Like there's things that come up all the time that like, I shouldn't be not available for 2 hours. Like there's things that come up that I need to handle. So it's something I have to balance, but I think I've done a pretty decent job of it. But I just know part of my, rest of this year and going forward is I want to start doing what any great writer or creative person or person dedicated to something, a creative venture does, which is like, you got to show up for an hour a day for yourself, no distractions, lock in, turn your phone off. Even if you got to let all 7 or 8 people you work with know, like, look, 8 to 9 a.m. on basically 8 to 9 a.m. is for me, hit me. And that's something I think I need to, I just said it right now, but I think I literally need to do something like that. Like I'll be available at 7:50 and I'll be available at 9:10, but 8 to 9, like I gotta do me. So it's a work in progress. I would say the boundaries, it's a work in progress, but but the little things, like I said, help, the little things like even just going and shooting hoops or going and, working out or playing ball or going for a drive or whatever it is, doing those little type of things. They give me the mental space often I need. I don't need a ton of, just exclusively me time per day, but those little escapes help a lot.
Yeah, I will say, as somebody that lives and breathes by the early mornings, that's where I get 99% of my creative writing done, because nobody's calling me, nobody's texting me. And honestly, most people aren't hitting me up until I feel like after 10 a.m. So it's like, if I can get up early and like give myself an hour or 2 hours of writing or working on something creatively, like that shit compounds Monday through Friday. And then it's like, it gives me the space. So if you are thinking that morning, I'm telling you, it is.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. I hear your voice sometimes echoing. You win the morning, you win the day. I really do. Like that's something you've ingrained that in me. And there was a stretch last year where like I was getting up, really early for me, which was like 5:36, like for like probably 3 or 4 months. And I felt good. I don't know what happened, but I fell off the train. But I did notice that same thing, like, cause even like Eastern time, whatever, 9, 10 a.m. or like 10 a.m. I would say is like when people on the East Side start hitting me up. But, when I was up, I had this kind of meditate workout. I had a routine, I had a Bobbbaaaay inspired, aspiring bearded man routine. I didn't fully get there, but I liked it. And what I did love about it was, I really didn't get hit up between, let's say I'm up at 6. I didn't get hit up between 6 and 8, and that time was really precious. And, I think I've made a lot of excuses, but, it's all a balance, man. It's like, lately, even the last month, like since I've been more in the mix, like I've been out a lot, man. I've been drinking more than I usually do. I've been like more social, but it's like, you got to fill those cups sometimes. So I'm not even being critical. But, I do look forward to, now that I'm kind of settled, and I hadn't been, I was back East all of December and top of January. And then it was immediate, like, all right, we got to look for a crib. Then the moving process, I got COVID while I was moving. So that was just like, it was a hectic. Man. Yeah. And I was like out pretty heavy too. So like, I wasn't super shocked. I hadn't got COVID before that. So anyway, so I do look forward to, and I'm going to keep that in mind more, because I do owe it to myself to just, give myself an hour a day just to create.
Yeah. I'm big on like self-compassion. So when those things happen, whether you're stuck back East, you get COVID, you lose, you had some good momentum with habit and then you drop it. It's like, it's okay. You could just pick up where you left off. Like, I think a lot of times people get caught up in like, it was so good, I was so consistent, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's fine. Just, it's like riding a bike. Just take get back on the bike and just start slowly pedaling. And so, if you're aware of it and you give yourself that self-compassion, I think I think you can get back to it. But that leads right into the bounce back with Tim and Q. Talk to you about the inspirational launch in this podcast. And I think it's got to be pretty exciting for you as somebody that like really your roots coming into this industry was you as a blog writer, which then led you to building all these connections in Boston, which then led you to managing artists. And like, so it's cool to hear that you're full circling and now getting an opportunity to get back into a space where you can share.
It's exciting, man. It's great timing. Like I told you to talk about it just because, it's something that I've known about for a bit and couldn't talk about. And now I can. It was launched officially like in beta 4 days ago. It's this new app called AMP, on Amazon. It's tied in with Amazon Music, and I'm very, very fortunate, very, very grateful that they reached out to me last year and wanted to bring me on as someone to host a show. And it's something that I've always wanted to kind of step back into at some point, but definitely didn't take the initiative to. And it was always just like, man, I would love to have like a platform to share stuff that isn't like Instagram stories and Twitter, which I use pretty strategically, and I'm not like a promo machine kind of guy. It's like when I shout something out, it's because I have like a real personal connection to it, or I'm proud of it or whatever. But there's a lot I want to share and curate, and a lot of conversations I want to have. I've just, I appreciate these type of things so much. Like I just love having good, healthy conversation. And, this is a really cool opportunity to do that. And it is very full circle. And that's part of even the name, the bounce back, like, Q and I Q's been one of my good friends for like 8 years now, which is crazy. It's hard to believe, but I'll tell the quick story. Q was someone that I looked up to. He was grew up with Mac, and anybody, you have probably a similar perspective, but like anybody that was like in their teens, in around 2010, like Mac Miller was just that guy, like he's this, and
I wanted to be him. I have pictures of me like trying to replicate his fucking style. I was trying to be Mac.
I did too, man. Yeah, no, I had the snapbacks, the sweaters, man. He was just the coolest motherfucker. And like,
black Ray-Bans every time.
Yeah. And I had the great honor of like getting to know him, and just a spectacular person, and just a fucking genius artist that is missed every day. But, Q, I got to know Mac through Q. Q, I knew him as being part of Mac's crew, and he had a following, and I knew some people that knew him, and everybody had nothing but good things to say. And then at some point, this is when I was in Boston, I just had the blog. I noticed he followed me, which I was really amped about, and he started to like share some of my writing. Like I remember I interviewed McConan in 2014, like before the whole Drake thing, and Q always had good taste and was up on shit early. I remember him sharing that, and it's stuff I haven't even told him, but I remember being gassed. I'm like, this dude Q who works with Mac is like sharing my work. Like this is that those little things gave me hope very early on. I'm like, damn, like that was one of my first like, oh, this is somebody like big, not from Boston, that is tapped into what I'm doing for whatever reason. Sick. And then like when I got Michael Christmas going, he put out his first mixtape, and it was man, summer 2014, we could do a whole episode on that. It was very weird. It was very like pretty much everything I spoke happened. Wow. And it's like one of the things I said that summer, and Christmas and I were living in an attic apartment with no AC in Allston together, which was,
we've all done our roots in Allston, baby. I know that life.
Yeah. So we were there for a few months, and it was in the midst of him getting going. And that's where we actually like literally launched Stizz SoundCloud from that same apartment. So I was doing a lot in Boston. That was kind of my like, all right, let me like give this shit a try. I'd been living back at home in Connecticut for a bit, and I was like, I'm going to go all in on this. Like, I'm not just going to go get some job. I'm going to devote a whole summer to Christmas and Stizz and Cam and like the Boston shit I was working on. And one of the things I said that summer, I remember us just sitting around, in this hot ass apartment talking about our dreams. And I was like, man, like, I just feel like you and Mac at some point would like, it would just make sense. I'm like, I want, like, I hope you get a chance to like meet Mac. No lie. Like 3 weeks later, I'm in LA for probably the second time ever. I was actually out, doing the video, the Tuesday video with Drake and McConan. So I was having just a very rare, great time. I actually stayed at the hotel right across the street from me now, which is crazy. So there's a lot of full circleness.
You were chefing in that kitchen. I'll never forget that video.
Yeah. That was at my Airbnb in Hollywood. But I'll get into this in a second, my 7-year theory, but anyway, so I'm out in LA and Q DMs me. We never talked directly before. He just would share my work sometimes and reply to tweets or whatever. He DM me. He's like, yo, pull up. Like, send me his address. He's like, I see you're in LA. All right, cool. So I'm gassed. I'm like, sick. Like, I'm getting to meet this dude that I look up to. And I get in there and it's him and Clockwork, Max DJ. They were living together. And Q answers the door and he's like, bro, like, I look up to you, man. Like, I'm so honored to meet you. And I was like, what? Me? Who the fuck am I? You know, I was just pretty blown away. But honestly, like, you know, I know Q very well. And like, looking back, it makes perfect sense. Back then I was like damn near starstruck, you know, like, oh, this dude like has a show on MTV and he's like Mac Miller's best friend and manager, you know, but knowing him now, that's just who he is. He's like an extremely humble person who just does everything he does from the heart, you know, and getting to know like him and Mac together as friends and business partners over the years, it just made perfect sense because Mac was very similar, like just an incredibly good, grounded dude who like no one had a bad thing to say about because you couldn't, because they're just genuine guys. And like Mac and Q are kind of two peas in a pod. So anyway, you know, and we sit down and I'm looking at all the plaques on his walls and Q was like, yeah, so like I just wanted to chop it up with you, but like I also wanted to tell you, like I played Christmas's music from Mac and like he's his new favorite artist right now. Like Mac wants to bring Christmas out and like make music with him, bring him on tour. And I was like, fuck, like in my head, I'm like, I just said that like 3 weeks ago. I just told, I wasn't thinking, oh, let me talk to Q. There was no strategy. I was just like putting it out there.
Yeah.
You know, so that was just like the seeds of our relationship. We spent a lot of time at Mac's house that year. And, you know, sure enough, like he followed through. He brought Christmas on tour. We had, you know, Christmas and Mac became good friends. They even, before Stizz even really had music out, they put him on a couple shows. And, you know, so Q always, he just looked out, you know, he was just somebody that, and I noticed that was a trend. It wasn't just with me. Like there's so many people that have that same relationship with him where he was just kind of, you know, he was always like one of the very important like tastemakers in Mac's corner. Like Mac himself had incredible everything taste and, you know, everything he was doing. But Q was definitely somebody that was like putting all the people in that universe and like, but doing it in this just non-strategic, just like organic, just off of his taste kind of way. And before that, like the reason his handle is Interview Q, like he was interviewing artists. Like he was doing like DJ booth, you know, video interviews at South by Southwest with Dom Kennedy. I didn't even know him at that point. But so when this opportunity came up, I was like, you know, I'm thrilled, but I don't want to do this alone because I do a lot of things alone. Like I run my business alone. I don't have a business partner. So I was like, who would be good to host the show with? And immediately I was like, oh, Q's the guy. Like we always joked about like doing a podcast together. Like we never took it seriously, but we've talked about that. Like there's tweets of us being like, oh, we got to start our podcast. So I called him and I was like, yo, I got this opportunity. And I didn't even get the sentence out. He's like, yo, I'm in. Like, I'm incredibly honored. I'm in. Like, thank you. You know, so it was a cool full circle thing for me. Cause I'm like, you know, he's a good friend, but I'm like, you know, he really got my career going in a lot of ways. So it was cool just to be able to, you know, for us to be able to work on something together. And it's been great, you know, because we've been great friends for a long time, but now we're working on something. We're talking every day.
Yeah.
So it's just, and that's the way my life has gone in a lot of ways. It's like, I've, you know, been lucky enough to be able to develop friendships into like, working relationships too. And something that, at least for me, like some of my best friendships have come from working on something together, just a project, you know, and like, cause that, you know, that brings you closer naturally. And I know, you know, there is something to be said about like the challenges of mixing friends and business, but I think with like projects, especially, you know, where something like this, it's like, we're probably going to do more stuff together, but this is a project, you know, it's a really, really cool opportunity to you know, combine our interests and work on something together. So, yeah, by the time this comes out, like we'll have had a few episodes out, but it's a live, it's really a radio show. I wouldn't even call it a podcast really, but it's like an hour a week, live audio format. I don't think we're supposed to talk about the competitors, but it's like a combination of like a few of the platforms out right now, but it's ill. You know, I think it's going to really take off this year and I'm super grateful to be a part of it. And yeah, we're just, you know, we're going to be doing what we did at the beginning of our careers, like sharing dope music, having great conversations with people, telling stories, having fun, you know, just bantering. So yeah, the first one, as we're talking now, the first one's coming next week. There'll probably be a few out by the time this comes out, but Yeah, man, it's exciting. It's just, it's a tiny step for me into doing stuff that I really enjoy, that I have had on the back burner with the burner off for a long time. And now I'm like, oh, cool. Like I get to heat this up. It's like low heat, it's like, it's nothing crazy. It's just, it's simmering. But I was talking to another friend about this last weekend, friend of mine Ava, who made a transition from, artist management she was working with Scooter Braun, to she's screenwriting full time, and she made that transition in the last 2 years. And she's incredibly happy and incredibly talented. And I'm not saying I'm trying to make a jump, but I am trying to incorporate more of that, like I was alluding to, like in my life. Like I'm a very creative, storytelling, leaning kind of person, and this is that's why I say I'm grateful, because I didn't seek this out. Someone gave me this opportunity, and I'm like, the fact that you can see that in me, even though I haven't done this in a long time, I'm very honored. And the fact that I can alley-oop it to, a friend of mine that I also see in that way, that he hasn't done this in a minute. So that's part of why we're calling it the bounce back, is like, wow, we're kind of bouncing back to where we started, but doing it in this new, fresh way. Like I had this radio show and, my blog 8, 9, 10 years ago. And now I'm like, all right, cool. Well, now I get to do this with the network, with the know-how, with the relationships. So, there's nothing but good that can come from it. So it's either going to go well or it's going to go fantastic. That's the way I see it. So.
It's either going to go well or fantastic. I fucking love that. I'll have it.
So I'm excited, man.
I'll have it linked up in the description below, but I'm very thoroughly excited to hear this. And it really is cool to see the full circle of it. And it kind of makes sense. Like you definitely were building your career as a manager, as a director for some time. And that takes a lot of energy. And I'm sure like just that alone didn't really give you the space to then do something creatively like this. So it's really amazing to see you be able to bring this back into your life. And I think it's only going to just add more to you, because this is such a different part of your brain. And like, it's almost going to, like you said, it's been on the back burner for some time. And I think it's really important to have that balance of like bringing in the things into your life that really provide you value and that, you enjoy. And I'll definitely be excited to listen. So I'll have that linked up. Amp, I've been hearing about it too, so that's cool to hear. They're really betting on this platform. Yeah,
they're pushing it. They got a lot of big people involved. Like they announced, like Nicki, she was kind of one of the flagship shows, and Pusha Tinashe. They announced a handful of other.
Zach Sang, I had him on a couple months ago. I saw that. That's a good grab.
Yeah. We'll see. They're gonna announce a lot, but shit, man, you got to tap in with Tim and Q. That's the show you got to pay attention to.
Bounce back, baby. The bounce back. Yeah. Tim, we're going to get into the final 5. These are the last 5 questions of the podcast. If you can keep it to one sentence, please do. If you got to go a little bit longer, no big deal. Question number 1, how can people learn to give themselves permission to follow their interests and ideas?
You learn by doing in anything, so it's like you gotta start, you got to start that journey. So, and I'm preaching to myself, because there's journeys I want to start. There's things that I want to give myself space and time for. So you don't get there unless you start. I think it's incremental progress. But man, you don't know how to do anything until you try it. So I would say, get a taste of something, see how it feels, and see how it feels you.
Love it. Question number 2: if you had to go back to any point in your life, what would the advice you'd want to give to yourself, and when would this be?
I'll answer my practical answer first. My quick practical answer is, this is something I struggle with, because I don't like, and this isn't regretting, but I don't,
I know exactly what you're trying to.
It's like the butterfly effect. You change one little thing and you're changed forever. Everything about your universe is changed forever. So my honest answer is I don't think I would change anything. I'll give my practical one first. So my practical one first is, I would say, probably exactly what my mom was telling me back in like 2014 or 2015. Like, hey, this is a business. Structure the business. Take the business serious. Like, learn business. I didn't learn business. I went to school for communications. I am not a great business person. I'm just not. I'm not. I'm a creative type. I've learned the business. I know how to do good business. I'm very capable, but as far as like structuring my own company, structuring even from like a business entity perspective, like really understanding what it takes to grow and scale, that's somewhere I've kind of hit a wall where I'm like, okay, I've done what I've been doing for a minute, but I haven't paid a whole lot of mind or given a whole lot of time to, well, what does this look like really blown up, and how do I get there? And that's not something I can't do, but I think I would go back, to 2014, 2015 and just say, look, like, this shit is going to take off quicker than you think. You're going to have a full-time job. I was split between, do I get a full-time job? Do I double down on this? I was kind of in between, and it just worked out. And I didn't need to get a full-time job. This became my full-time job, which was cool. But I think the downside of that was I didn't really learn much about, a team or a business structure, or like just how to scale things. So I think I would tell myself, like, hey, read some of those articles your mom sent you, read some of those books about business she's buying you, because I'm intrigued by that stuff now, but that's because I've gotten to a point where it's just absolutely necessary. Back then it's like I could have gotten on that earlier and been in a bit better of a position. But that's my practical, and my quick non-practical is like, like self-love and self-confidence is just everything. And I think there was a time in my like late teens, early 20s where like, and it's all a process, but I think I was, I just wasn't in a place where I was ready to like really embrace everything about me and who I am. And I think, it's natural, I think, naturally we're more insecure in our teens and before we like really find out who we are and everything. But, I think I would go back to that era and just say like, embrace everything about you sooner, everything, because once you do, your life is going to open up in so many ways, and you're going to be able to have great relationships, and, but at the same time, like, things happen when they were supposed to happen. So, that's all I would say is just love who you are. I always loved, but like really embrace everything about you,
Yeah. I'm a big advocate for the self-love and like owning your strengths and your weaknesses. So I can only, emphasize that even more for people that are listening. Third question for you. What's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
I would say like organization and timeliness, and just, really, excuse me, I'm still like, just, following through within like, a time frame that I say I'm going to. I'm just like, I'm too loose with my organization. I'm too loose with like my own personal deadlines. So I would say just, I think I need to focus a little bit more on, just structure time, just like I said earlier, just carving out, time in the day for certain things. Just that, I'm a very like, Rolling Stone type. I kind of like just, living in the present, but, being in the present all the time, has its consequences. So, that's one of my goals. For sure.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Fourth question for you. What's the first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential?
The first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential. What do you see as inner potential? Do you mean like being at peace, or do you mean like, do you have anything in mind?
I've always approached it as generally speaking, in the sense of like, I think a lot of people are scared to take, I'm not going to say take the first step because I don't want that to be the piece, but like there's internally, we all have somebody we imagine ourselves to become, and we have limiting beliefs, or we let society or conversation stop us from doing those things. So to me, there is an inner potential in all of us of what that means can be a magnitude of different things for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just, kind of what I just said, but like, like really leaning into who you are. And I know a lot of people struggle with, and I did at one point, like finding your tribe or your community or your people, and I think you attract those people. I think it's like, there's an element of like, you got to put yourself out there, you got to join things that align with your interests. Like you have to do the work. But like those people are going to meet you halfway without knowing it. Like things meet you halfway. I think there's a natural, attraction based energy to like doing something you enjoy, or speaking on the things you enjoy, sharing the things you enjoy on social media that, you might not know well, or you might not think there's an audience out there for what you're doing or saying, or maybe it's some like random niche thing you want to share, but like there is. And I think the more you know, again, embrace who you are and just truly like do the things on a day to day, hour by hour that you enjoy doing, I think those things compound and eventually, you know, it might be frustrating if you're clocking it too hard, but you know, you're going to start attracting the things that you need. You know, I think back to the beginning of my journey and I'm like, it's just baffling sometimes when I look back. I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? You know, and it was really just one foot in front of the other. Let me start let me grab the URL and let me like post a Drake album review, you know, and then let me go to a random show in Boston and let me talk to somebody in the crowd. Oh, that somebody is a rapper from the city. Okay, that somebody brings me to this thing and I meet this and all of a sudden, you know, I'm someone that people look at as like, you're an, you know, integral figure in Boston hip hop. And I'm like, I'm honored, you know, but I look back and I'm like, it literally just started with like one little thing that, okay, let me start a blog about, you know, music and sports and sneakers, like the things I just enjoy talking about and sharing. And, you know, that it's just, you know, it dominoes. You know, it's like the quote, you know, it's the classic quote, but the world conspires to helping you achieve the things that, you know, you want to achieve. I really do believe in that. I think that goes along. That was more eloquent than me saying it meets you halfway, but it's the same concept. It's like, I think energy does meet you halfway, but I think, you know, you have to do the work and in knowing that you're going to be going at shit alone. You know, you're going to be at, you know, whether it's friendships or dating or an interest or whatever, it's like, you're going to feel alone sometimes. I definitely felt alone and lonely at times, but like the more you do things for you, then the more at peace and satisfied and happy you're going to be. And then, I don't know, like there's a ripple effect like that it just generates people, it generates energy. I think, you know, then you become this, you know, this like orb of energy. You're not just a person. Like people can sense when you're doing things you enjoy and things you love because you wear it on your face, you know, like I just know I'm at a point where I know I have a certain glow, and I know it's because I spend time doing the things I want to do and being with the people I want to be with. I keep the drama out of my life. You know, if I get the sense that someone's a shiesty person, they don't have a place in my life ever again. You know, like I keep my orb is you know, it's reflective of the things and the morals and just, you know, the way I you know, the way I love to move, the way I love to be. So yeah, I would say that's the first thing, is just like double down on whatever it is that you enjoy, what, you know, enjoy about people, enjoy about doing day to day. Like just live in that and live in the comfort of there might not be a quick payoff to that. Live in the comfort of, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. And it doesn't matter if no one else sees that right now. Do it because you love to do it. You know, I think that's what generates the you know, the balance, you know, the reward, the partnership, whatever it is.
Yeah. There's going to be no perfect blueprint ahead of time that anybody's going to give you. But it's that trusted belief that if I continue to follow the things that I'm interested in, do the things that I really want to do with time and patience and consistency and hard work, somehow, some way, the world is going to guide me exactly to where I need to be. And I can only speak from my own personal experience, but that's been tried and true for what's gotten me to where I am today. And it continues to be the fuel to keep me going.
Yep. The same way.
Fifth and final question for you. Somebody listened to the last 75 minutes of this podcast. They wrap up listening to today's episode. What is one challenge you have for the listeners today?
What is one challenge for the listeners today? Just do something for you, man. Do something you enjoy. Do something you love. Like, just give yourself some space. You know, it's been a consistent theme throughout this, but you know, I definitely attribute a lot of my happiness to just being present, you know, and even within a day, you know, within a stressful day, taking 10, 15, 45 minutes to do something for you. And maybe that's, you know, read a chapter of a book. Maybe that's call your mom, you know, maybe that's go shoot some hoops. Maybe that's, you know, go get some tacos, you know, whatever it is, like just do something for you. You know, I'm not even gonna get deeper with it. Just do something for you. Smile, laugh, you know, be around good company. Like that's what matters at the end of the day, man. Like all of this career stuff. Everything's important, but like smile and laugh every day,
Yeah.
Talk to someone that's going to make you smile.
Enjoy the ride. That's what it comes down to. Crack the bottle of wine, because I know you like that wine. So crack that bottle, a little bit of bounce, and enjoy it.
I'm cracking a bottle tonight. It's Cam's birthday dinner tonight. So
is it? Is today's actual birthday?
Birthday's Monday, but he's doing his little birthday dinner. So Cam's the wine guy. I'm the apprentice, but he'll be he'll be cracking something nice tonight. So I look forward to that. I didn't drink last night. I've been out every day this week, but last night I took off. I was like, I know I'm going to be drinking some good wine with Cam tonight.
One on, one off. One on, one off.
Yeah, exactly.
Tim, this has been wow, man. It really. I was really going down some nostalgia yesterday. I listened to that first episode and. Genuinely, you gave me a lot of inspiration when I first got started, because you gave me that inspiration. Like, wow, I'm getting a cold email response. I should keep shooting these Hail Marys and see who responds to it. But just watching the way, one thing that I've watched from you from afar is you don't tell the world, you show the world. You let your actions speak. You're incredibly well at, I don't want to say the word networking, but at building genuine, authentic relationships. Like, I've never heard somebody that knows of you or that your name's gotten brought up in a sentence where they've only said positive things, and that's only because of the person that you've become yourself, and that's what I think opens doors, and people want to be around you, and it's just something that's so clear to you. And I like the distinction real quick, because it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with the networking thing, and I always hated that word, because there's like a connotation to that makes it feel like there's like an intent or a strategy, and like. Boom.
It's something I'm so grateful for, but I have just the most incredible community of people in my life, and that came through what some people might read or describe as networking, but really like, and I can honestly say this, like I've never put like a business prerogative before a relationship. I just never have. It's not something I believe in, and there's been so much like naturally. It's like when you see someone, even like you and I, it's like. You wanted to connect with me, right? And there's a part of that that's like a payoff. Like what you're trying to do is get interesting guests in your podcast. Like that's how we met. But it comes from a very genuine, curious place. And I think like a lot of the people that have been very helpful in my career, like taught me a lot, or like given, people I work with opportunities, or even like, my friend that gave me this Amazon opportunity, like that's just, and I do feel I'm deserving of it, but I'm also very conscious of that's just because I have a friendship that was fostered by him reaching out to me years ago, being like, I'm at this new startup, like you have some cool artists, can we get them on this startup? But us just keeping up a good relationship over the years and like playing ball together, checking in on each other's lives, going out for breakfast, and then he's like, I got this opportunity for you. And it's like, if I had ever looked at that as like a transactional relationship 5 years ago, I could have been like, man, fuck this platform. Like, I don't need Stizz on this platform, and just kept it moving. But I just love people, man. I value people. I value relationships. And, I'm really, truly never looking for like, well, is this going to turn into something? And I've run into a lot of the opposite. I've been on the opposite end of a lot of people that as soon as you can't give them something, you're not going to hear from them again, you know? And you can't keep up with everybody all the time, but I do take a lot of pride in like fostering relationships that I am very grateful for, man. Very, very grateful. I'm grateful that we've stayed in touch the last 5 years. That could have been a one and done episode, but it's like, I've, and I have a lot of those. I have a lot of just, people I really, truly value. So, networking, I would advise people to not look at it that way. I would advise people as building a community. Yeah.
And that's exactly, you couldn't have said it better. And I think you've only attracted some incredible people that do things at high levels because it's from a genuine standpoint. Yeah. And yeah, man, it's just been seeing you succeed, and everyone that you work with has been just such an inspiration for me of like, if I can see, I think I texted this to you, or maybe I didn't. And that was one of those moments where I look back and I said, I fucking should have texted Tim. But I remember there was a couple months ago, I saw a photo of Stizz sitting courtside at a Celtics game, and like Celtics like.
No, I think you did. I think you did.
I think I did. Okay, I think I did. But like when I see moments like that, I get inspired because I just go, there's somebody that is working towards something they really want and is making it happen, and that shit goes to me. I go, I can do all these things that I have like internally as inspiration. So it's little things like that and everything else that I've said today, like just the utmost respect for you, man. I can't wait to,
likewise.
It might be a 3-year, 4-year, another 5-year recap at some point, but Just keep winning, and just sincerely appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today.
No, man. You too, bro, man. Thank you so much. I enjoy this. I enjoy all the stuff you put out, and I'm just as honored to be a part of it and to be a guest. This is you're building a special legacy, and the fact that I'll always be one of the first people is cool. Like that's and that's part of, one of the many reasons I'm rooting for you, not selfish. Like I'm very honored and grateful to be a part of dope shit and people doing good things for the right reasons. So
I appreciate it, man. A lot more to come. Literally, the party's just getting fucking started. So buckle up.
No, we're just getting started.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's episode, screenshot it on whatever platform you're listening on, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, whatever, you name it. Screenshot it, post it to your IG story, tag Tim. He's at Tim Larew, TimLarew. Tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's BO, 3 B's, 4 A's and a Y. Show the podcast in your IG story. Let us know, what was the biggest takeaway? How did this episode change your perspective? What did you learn? I'd be very curious to know. Linked up in the description below, I will have the bounce back linked up so you can actually check that out. I'll have Tim's Instagram and Twitter. His management company is 7 Sharp. That's the number 7sharp.com. Anywhere else I should be sending the listeners after today's episode?
No, it's everything.
You're a bearded legend, Tim Larew. Thanks for being on the show today.
You too, bro. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya.